When I speak of leadership, when I define leadership, I think of all human beings, male and female, who have to organize men and women in their respective areas. There could be people in a company, there could be people in a school, there could be people in an industry, or at people at large in a country. So leadership would cover all areas where a human being leads a number of other human beings. And my philosophy of leadership basically is someone who understands the challenges, the problems, who also has an idea of how the challenges can be met, a person who will be able to absorb and learn from failures as much as he or she will be encouraged by the successes achieved. Because success is the flip side of failure, and failure is the flip side of success. A good leader must not allow himself or herself to become frustrated and become useless because his or her efforts have not succeeded. Basically, a leader is born in either of the two situations. Either a person is appointed or entrusted to do a particular job, and he or she finds himself or herself in the role of leading other human beings. Or you have the other condition would be that a person forces himself on a situation, which could be a community, which could be a company, which could be a country, because the needs of the constituents are such that this person is convinced that he or she can lead the human beings, the people in that community or company or country, towards the realization of their objectives. I have spent the best part of my life as a civil servant, first at the national level and then at the international level. So I don't know if a civil servant or a bureaucrat qualifies as a leader. I joined the Pakistan Diplomatic Service in 1969 as a result of a competitive examination, and spent the next 3 decades until 1998 in various Pakistan missions in Lebanon, in Egypt, in Germany, and later the most exciting assignment I had was in New Delhi as Pakistan's Deputy High Commissioner, which I did for 4.5 years, from 87 until 92. As I mentioned, the most exciting part of my diplomatic career, my public service, was the period spent in India, a country with which Pakistan has always had problematic relations, a relationship that has been marked by mutual hostility, by mutual adversity, and for the first time, no other two countries have fought 4 wars since the end of the Second World War. We are the only exception. We went to war 4 times, although all the wars were inconclusive, except one which resulted in the dismemberment of Pakistan in 1971. Working in New Delhi is exciting, it is challenging, it is sometimes frustrating and sometimes rewarding. But it's a relationship, it's a posting that any Pakistani diplomat would welcome, would in fact try to get, because the kind of experiences you get there, you get nowhere. What you get is, sometimes you get a lot of affection, people who care for old pre-partition ties and relationships. Sometimes you confront animosity, people who have lost either after the aftermath of partition in the form of losing their homes, their businesses, or people who have lost a near or dear one in either of in any one of these wars that we have fought. So, but you never get, so you either get affection or nostalgia or hostility, but you never get indifference. You may be roaming in the streets of London or Paris or Washington and nobody cares. But when you are in Delhi and you are identified as a Pakistani, you are taken notice of. You are asked, you are talked to, you may be cursed, but that's how I felt. The most difficult part of my 4.5 years was when the Kashmiri resistance started in 1990, and the Indians decided to blame it all on Pakistan rather than to listen to the Kashmiris that they claimed were their people. And so immediately the relationship became tense, the relationship became difficult, the relationship became frustrating for all Pakistanis, for people in Islamabad, for people at the cantonments, for people in business, for people belonging to the divided families whose wish is to visit their kith and kin, their relatives on the other side of the divide. So that was at times frustrating, but always exciting. And what leadership demands of Pakistani diplomats is to remember that we are neighbors. And as neighbors, we should not consider ourselves condemned to a relationship of permanent adversity and animosity. As neighbors, we must try to resolve our differences, to behave like good neighbors rather than as quarrelsome neighbors who make life miserable for the rest of the street. So that was our aim, that was my aim personally, and it must remain the aim of Pakistan's diplomacy. We must not allow the frustrations of today, the day-to-day disappointments like we face because of the present sit-up in New Delhi. We must look at the future with hope and with optimism. That's what real leaders, whether in diplomacy or in government or in parliament, must strive for. Well, I spent 3/4 of my career, the first 30 years out of 40, in traditional diplomacy as a Pakistani diplomat. But the last 10 years were spent as an international civil servant, as deputy head of the United Nations Environment Program, with the rank of Assistant Secretary General. This was in 1989, when I was, 98, when I was serving as High Commissioner in Kenya with an ambassador to Ethiopia, I was appointed by Secretary General Kofi Annan to serve as the Deputy Executive Director of the UN Environment Program, because I had been taking interest in the organization whose headquarters was also located in Nairobi. And although I spent 10 years only, that created a new commitment on my part, a commitment for the protection of the natural resources in my own country and at the global level, and also the desire and wish to promote international cooperation for resolving issues which cannot be resolved at the national level. So, and that the number of issues that received my attention, we were dealing with transboundary water issues. We established a commission on dams, the question of dams, which became very, very heated in Pakistan. And we were also dealing with climate change, with biodiversity, how the world is losing its forests, its lakes, its wild animals, and how the emissions of carbon dioxide are disturbing and destabilizing the international climate, with the result that we are likely to face lots of floods, lots of prolonged periods of drought, and all these problems. So these are basically, and since my return to Pakistan, I have tried to focus on the environmental challenges of Pakistan as a member of the civil society. I'm no longer associated with the government or in any international organization, but I'm a member of the civil society. I've been associated with Sustainable Development Policy Institute. I've been now more recently associated with the Coalition for Climate Change, and making my contribution to the protection of the national environment and making a contribution to resolving global issues. Pakistan is a young nation, not only because it was created only 70 years ago, but also because more than 60% of the population of Pakistan comprises the under 30. So that is why I think that the future of this country of 210 or more million, depends on its young population. Having spent my life doing things and observing things and examining things, and now for some time reflecting on the past events, I have a number of messages for our young people. My first message to them is that they must never give up hope. They must always allow themselves and encourage themselves to be inspired by hope, by optimism. The second message that I would suggest is that they must learn. They must learn what they want to achieve in life, and do their best to equip themselves with what they want to achieve, whether it is as a doctor or as an engineer or as a journalist or as a business person. And the third is that they must earn. It is not enough only to learn, because then learning must aim at something, and earning means achieving results, not only getting paid, but achieving results. As part of this process, another requirement is that our young people must yearn. They must have aspirations, they must have expectations, they must have ambitions, they must have goals. You can't just sit in a boat and allow the waves to take you wherever the wind takes the boat. The young man and woman, boy and girl of this country must be inspired by optimism, must have a goal in life, must learn how to achieve that, and then must yearn to achieve greater heights in their lives. So they must not allow the frustrations around them to put them down. That is basically my message. There is no shortcut to hard work.